Hey guys, Labby Dragon here, back with part 3 of my big fat pasty tutorial. Today we're actually going to go into how to make all kinds of different shapes. And you're going to use this one method and you'll actually be able to, with enough patience, make any shape you want. I'll admit, sometimes I don't have enough patience, and so I give up on a particular shape. So, starting with what we're going to need today, so you're going to need a circle that is larger than the circle you would usually use for just a circular pasty. Depending on the design, depends on how much larger you need. I like to use, this is from my, this is from a pattern for a mini top hat. It's written on there. I like to use this one. And so what we'll do is we will trace that and then cut it out. That's the first step. Or actually, while we're here, I also like to center and trace my standard pasty, because that's, you know, you need that minimum area to cover your nipple, and that is very important if you want to use these on stage. So not quite perfectly centered, but it is what it is. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. Okay, and so today the shape I want to make is this little comic book kablam shape here. As you can see, or well, probably not, as you might be able to see now, it's actually, the center of this isn't quite enough to cover the area I want, so I'm actually gonna have to try to mimic this shape but make it slightly larger. And this is very careful guesswork. But yeah, your first step here is just to trace out, or freehand if you're brave, the basic shape that you're gonna want. As I'm doing here. This is a nice uneven shape, so anywhere I don't get it perfect, it doesn't really matter. So there, I have my kablammy shape traced out. And as you're working on this, you can begin to perfect it, because this is very much an artistic process and not a science, for me especially. So what I'm gonna do is kind of decide where I want my like center to end up. So I think I kind of want to fold this piece over this piece is what I'm gonna try to go for. So what I'm doing is I'm just sort of trying to make that crease to figure out where that center line will really be and how to make my cut appropriately for it, because we are going to find that, and then we're actually going to cut and cone this before we cut out the shape, so that we have that excess to work with when we're cutting it out. Alright, I'm actually just going to fold it so that I have a nice line to cut on. Let's see. I think my tiny scissors are somewhere else. I like my tiny scissors. Alright. So just like a regular pasty pretty much. And then you just make your cone. And grab some tape. I think it would work out better if I do it that way. Nah. And this is one of those points where you get to just kind of play with it and try to figure out which direction actually ended up being better. I think I want that extra spike to guide me. I don't need much more cone than that. So this is, I'm going to decide that this is where I want to tape. A little extra tape on the inside here. All right, so you're all taped down. You have your big cone going on. Now, as you can see, what I have going on here is where I overlapped the shape. It doesn't quite work out anymore. But what I'm going to do is actually try to draw this in a way that fixes that problem. And again, this is really this is a really irregular shape, so it's not so much the end of the world if it's not didn't work out quite right the first time. And when we go to cut this out, we can continue to perfect it. But yeah, there. It's fixed a little bit. It looks more like just the kablammy. It's obviously a little bit different than the original, but it still holds the same idea. I may need to go find my little scissors. I don't want to cut this out with the big scissors. So now that I have my detail scissors, I'm just going to start cutting this out. You can see I went off a little while I was cutting this to try to make it more like I was hoping for it to look like. But yeah, so now I have this nice little pattern for this little kablam shape. And that is actually, that's all you need. Is then, if you untape it and lay it flat, you just trace this out onto your papers and go about lining that up when you have it on your fabrics and stuff. So from here, we're actually just gonna do the same thing we always do. So, gonna try to remove trash from my area a little bit. Tip up the fallen Mod Podge. So we've got our heat and bond here. I'm going to start tracing on to the heat and bond. And I'm leaving this extra little spike here because that's actually going to help me line things up in the future. Did they start mowing the lawn again? They were done for like an hour, and now they're starting again. Fine. I'm sorry about the background noise. Gonna go ahead and cut these out. Actually, just gonna cut out this chunk first. There we go. I just start in on a new length of heat and bond because I recently used up the other one. Alright, I'm not gonna make you listen to that lawnmower while I cut these out. I'll see you when these are all cut out. Alright, just to remind you guys the steps for all of these. I have the fabric I'm going to use for the pasty. I'm going to use the wrong side, not the right side. This is nice satin, so it's easy to tell which side is the right side, because it's the shiny side. And I'm going to put my heat and bond with the glue side down and the paper side up. Hold down for 10 seconds. And when I move to the next side, pick the iron up and move it. Don't just rub it around. Right? And we're going to cut these out and then peel the paper off and use the same ironing technique to apply it to the buckram. So I will be back with you when we have done all of that. Okay, here we are, and as I have been doing in all of these videos, we are using a hot glue method. And that's why I left this little leg on here, because it helps line it up. And then if it doesn't quite match up, you cut out the extra, which we'll probably do there on that little sticky outy piece. Don't stick your finger on the hot glue. It wasn't still hot, but I did bring, I did mess it up. Right, and then just a little bit under the front flap. For a little extra security. Be careful, all of this is thin, the glue is hot. Go ahead and cut down where that sticks out just a little too much. Alright, and that's one. And we'll go through the same steps on this second one. So, here we have them. My little couple ammos. They'll actually probably say POW at some point. But I am actually going to set these aside for now, just because I do not have the stuff I originally wanted, or I've just suddenly decided I wanted. It's not even a question of just not gathering the right materials. We're going to set that aside, and now that we've done, we've at least put together, although not decorated, one set. So I just want to go back and reiterate that this method that I used to cut this piece is a method that can be used to make whatever you want. This bunny pasty I made the big circle. I actually cut it and coned it first and then started drawing. Actually, I made the circle my inner circle, and then coned it and drew on the rabbit head, drew on the rabbit head and sort of adjusted the bottom circle and just cut it out and saw if it worked. I went through at least 2. This is at least the second attempt at this. And it was the same thing. It was the same thing here with the little Batman symbol. I put the whole cone together, and then I just started drawing out I started copying the little bat logo and ended up with this pattern. I believe actually, I cut a bat out, and then, sorry, it's been a while. This was, I made these all the way back in April. I believe I actually made this pattern and then had to retrace it to get the extra leg in there, so that I always had a piece that could glue on the inside. So what I want to do right now is just go through one more shape, making the pattern, just to kind of cement this method in. So I have another cone. This is smaller than the last one just because I'm just working with it. So say this time we want to make a heart. I'm actually just going to freehand this one and see how it turns out. I could end up embarrassing myself, you never know. I'm just sketching out, starting from this point here that I want. Not really very good at symmetrical hearts, so this is actually a little bit difficult for me, but there we go. I've got what seems good enough for me. So I've got my little heart, and again, all we gotta do is cut it out, and you can kind of make corrections as you're cutting out. If you suddenly feel you need to. And there you go, bang. Just like that, we have another pattern. Lay it flat, trace it out. I just wanted to go over like a more common shape, since I use such a wildly uncommon shape for the main pasty this video. But yeah, and if you want, even get those lines, well, that lines up because you know where to line it up because you finished the point without any squaring. But if you have something where you feel like you need it, you can always also on your pattern just mark that line. Just mark the line where they overlap. so that you know where you're headed to. And you can do it on the back of the pattern too, if for some reason once you get it all out, you want to draw on the back of it. Once you're at your buckram stage, draw on the back of it to link things up. You can do that, so you can transfer that line. But yeah, it's actually really simple and a lot predicated on how much you're willing to play around with it and how much patience you have for it. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I've had some that I've quit on. Some shapes are just too shapey. But again, having a pattern print out, like I printed this out and cut it out, and just slapped it on there, and then coned it and saw where it was and drew the extra. That can be a good way to start if you're not comfortable freehanding it, or if it's something like you feel confident in freehanding, which maybe you do or don't. Honestly, with a heart, you can actually literally just print out a heart and overlap it, cut it straight up the center and overlap it. You get a little less pointy of a heart when you do that usually, but you can see where that would end up if I were to do that with what I've got here. It takes out some of the length of the heart versus what we've got here, which that might be, you might decide that's the look you like, so you might go with that. It's all up to you and just playing around with it and figuring out what works for what you're trying to make at the moment. So that's actually for now gonna complete this video, because we have some pretty solid instructions on how to get from idea to weird shaped pasties, which, and by all means, if you guys have questions at any point about these, hopefully even 5 years from when this is gonna originally air and such, hopefully I'll still be around, but find me on social media. I will answer your questions. If I get a question often enough, I'll do a video responding to it. So just, if you have any questions, I'm available on the internet. All my social media links are in the descriptions of my videos. And I'm there for you. What we're gonna do next is we are gonna go on to do a fourth, I think at this point, fourth part. And we're gonna do just a few extra decorating techniques, which is where you'll get to see me decorate these probably. But I feel like we have a solid grasp of how to at least get to this place, and then there are a few other techniques that I haven't addressed through the main part of this tutorial that are going to start coming out in small parts, including some additional decorating and possibly just some footage of working with materials other than buckram, or working with buckram in a different way. I'd like to have just little videos that are helpful, because they kind of help you any way you want to do it, because you can pretty much make pasties out of anything and everything. You can stick stickers, just if they're big enough stickers, get some big stickers printed out, cut them out, just stick them on. That would hurt. But you could do it. But yeah, it's such a wide and wonderful world, and there are so many different ways to do this. And so far, I've been showing you my favorite methods. But I'd like to put out little videos here and there that are continuations of this tutorial series that will just be little additional techniques. So, bye guys. I'll see you next time.